Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Feng Shui Talks, episode 9. We're going to be talking all about positive habits at home. And we have a very special guest joining us for today's episode. And we'll be joined by Konrad Stoik, who's going to be popping on here in a moment. We'll do a little intro. Here we go. Hi,
Hey Jess,
Konrad.
how are you?
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for sending the instructions for how to
Good.
get on. This is my first video, so I was like, is it a portal? Is it gonna, someone just gonna suck me in?
Basically, yes and yes. Well, I always do as you know, I don't prepare a whole lot for Feng Shui Talks, and it's very intentional. So we're just really stepping into this space and sharing whatever needs to be shared at this moment in time. And I always do like a couple minutes before going live, just sending instructions because I know there's a little bit of know-how
Just a little
when
bit.
going on live, just a little bit. But hey, you're here, and it was super simple, super easy. So
Awesome.
yeah. So we're here to talk all about positive habits at home. Before we get into the information, would you like to do a little introduction as to who you are and what your mission is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll keep it short, but my name's Konrad Stoik. I live in Austin, Texas, and really I just love to make people laugh and help them be better versions of themselves to live joyful lives. And I got on Instagram to do that at the beginning of this year, and it's been an awesome journey so far, which is how we got connected.
Yeah. Now, I'm really intrigued by the way that you share your method or message, I should say, through the antenna method. And I've listened to some episodes from the podcast, The Antenna Method, and also have been really staying connected through Instagram. And that's because I am someone whom I'm a very deep thinker, and I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes I can overthink situations. And what really brings me to the present moment, or one way, is through humor and
Yep.
laughter. Yeah. So, oh, we got someone watching from Dallas. Hey.
Oh, nice.
And I should also say I'm in Canada. So if no one has already caught on to my accent, but I'm in East Coast Canada in New Brunswick. So next to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah,
An
yeah.
East Coast gal. Yeah.
Awesome.
But humor and laughter and bringing in that fun and playfulness into my own life for sure. I've also got 3 young children, so they bring lots of humor and playfulness into our life as well. But and I already kind of know a little bit of this because I have read the Antenna Method, but I'm
Hmm.
curious to know a bit of your background and as to why this is something is holding such a strong place in your heart and wanting to share that.
Yeah, so I'm 31 now, and I kind of spent my 20s going through a series of challenges, mentally, physically, and just learning to overcome them and heal myself. And I won't necessarily go into all of them, but it was things like depression. I had sleep apnea, and I kind of figured out how to breathe better, breathe through my nose and heal that. I lived in a house with mold, and I got pretty sick at one point. I and developed food sensitivities, and so I had all these firsthand experiences where I just like went through the worst of it in terms of like, here's how bad things can get when you don't get in balance with your systems.
Yeah.
And there's just so much information out there, especially on Instagram, when it comes to like, you should do this, 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 like journal, meditate, exercise, like breathe, like, oh my God, like, what are we supposed to do? And so I'm the kind of person who likes to have things in a very like actionable, like, well,
Mm-hmm.
here's something that you could just step by step do. And that's what
Yeah.
Antenna Method is. It's my take on, here is a structured approach to make small impactful changes to your daily routine, because that's what it comes down to,
Yeah.
your habits, to
I
feel
agree.
better, just to feel
Yeah.
better.
Absolutely. And I can resonate so much with that. And I will say, while I was reading the antenna method, there were moments when I was crying. I was sitting with my daughter who was laying on me as I'm reading this, and I'm crying, and then getting
Really?
to the method and the steps. Oh yeah, I could very much resonate with, a lack of balance in the mental, definitely in my mental state in the past, and really
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging that. Even with my spiritual self as well,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that I am also a spiritual being, having a human experience, and looking at my lifestyle. Hence, I mean, that's how I found feng shui as well, and curating spaces to have positive energy and, that positivity in our life on a daily basis. And I think right now, oh, we've got someone from the Netherlands. Hi, I'm Rona. Amy
Hello.
Rona, I should say. And I think right now it is so important, or we're in a really beautiful place where we're in our home spaces maybe much more frequently, maybe not all the time, but frequently, more than in any other, period of time that certainly, I've ever had in the past 34 years that I've
Yeah.
been here. So, making these shifts in our daily habits, in our spaces, can have such a beautiful result and tangible result when we start making these shifts here and there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And also, thank you so much for sharing how you felt when you read the antenna method. You're the first person who's ever said something like that to me. So I just appreciate you sharing that. It means a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's something so human and real when, for sure, like, thank you for sharing your vulnerability and sharing your experiences as well. I feel like personally I'm stepping into that more and more and sharing more of my story, because
Mm.
to get to a place of this positivity, there have been a lot of contrast in my life prior to. So
Yeah.
I'm stepping into it little by little, but definitely honor and appreciate hearing your side of the story, or hearing your story as well.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
got a question. I think COVID has really caused a lot of stress and anxiety for a lot of people.
Yeah.
This is such a beautiful time where people are really waking up and
Yes.
realizing, right? Like, that maybe there's some habits that we've been having that are worth addressing or
Yeah.
realigning.
Yeah. And I definitely resonate with that whole aspect of COVID causing stress. And I mean, for me, like the stress led to, and this was like little over a year ago when I started working from home, but it led to that trying to get rid of it,
Mm-hmm.
incorporating healthier habits and trying to get in balance. But, at a certain point, like it kind of, it shifted into this whole like realization and this deeper existential question of like, why are we
Yeah.
here? Like,
Yeah.
what is this existence and how do we make the best of the time while we have it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And a big part of that is, I, I guess what's always kind of been in my forefront is like, how can I make everybody happy? And like, how can we please, or, share positivity? And what I've realized is that it all starts from the self,
Yeah.
and that self love, and cultivating those healthy, positive habits on a daily basis, like you said earlier, that creates those big tangible results in the end. And ultimately, by sharing what we do and this beautiful platform of Instagram, we're able to share that with others and help
Yeah.
inspire others to create the change for themselves as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so great because everyone has their own path. There is no blueprint. There
Mm-hmm.
is no even antenna method. Like that's the path generally that works for me.
Right.
And it's that journey of discovering like through trial and error. And I do think it's comedic sometimes, just like how ridiculous the whole situation of life is and just trying to figure out like how do I get my body to work? This is kind of ridiculous. Like this thing should just work better. But
Right.
yeah, I think it's that journey and approaching it with the mindset of like, okay, this is an adventure. I'm trying to level myself up so I can enjoy the adventure more. What
Mm-hmm.
are some things that I'll enjoy that will make the adventure more
Yeah,
worthwhile?
absolutely. So, what are the things that you've recognized to make your adventure more enjoyable?
So I'll talk about two that I discovered over the past year, which,
Perfect.
and I think everyone kind of talks about exercise and mindfulness and nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily want to go to those, but two for me that have made the biggest difference is one was just like recognizing that my thoughts are actual things and that
Mm.
they literally shape the reality around me and that I have the power to choose the thoughts and ideas that I'm like letting in on a daily
Yeah.
basis. And so
Yeah.
kind of shifting away from the things that make you feel bad, which for me it was the
Mm-hmm.
news and
Mm-hmm.
some parts of social media, and shifting towards like, well, there's movies about great artists and amazing stories and people on Instagram who are
Yeah.
sharing their passion that I can just take that in. Like I don't have to watch the news. And I did that, and like I just feel so much more like at peace, like a baseline level,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not taking in
Yeah.
all the, yeah, that just like
All the stuff. Yeah.
fear stuff every day, which affects you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I've too done this prior to COVID, but I will say when COVID began, it was like this real interesting period of time where it was felt very obligated to
Mm,
pay attention to the news all the time,
yeah.
and it was it was very challenging. Very grateful for that experience as well because it's reminded myself too the content that you're choosing to consume on a daily basis has a major effect on your personal energy, right?
Yeah, it does. I
Yeah,
mean, you're literally like bringing energy into your field, and
yeah.
it's just if you want to feel good, bring in good energy. It sounds so simple,
Hmm.
but it's like there's this. I don't know. It's like a stigma I had to overcome, where like a responsible
Yeah,
citizen watches the news. Like,
right. Yeah.
but but is I don't know. I don't know.
Is that?
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they? Yeah. Yes, I hear you fully. And we've got DSW saying the law of attraction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. And gosh, the day I limited using Facebook, I feel so peaceful. Can relate. Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
it's um it's really interesting, and I feel like this is a very appropriate um time to talk about decluttering your life, right? And, not just decluttering the things in your home space, but also, of course, where you're choosing to put your energy or where you're consuming your information.
Hmm.
And with social media, whether that be Facebook, whether it be Instagram, or I mean TikTok or Twitter, I mean there's so many different avenues of to connect with others around the world, but using it with this intentionality or mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
Of how the how the content feels to you,
Yeah.
and then maintaining your sovereign self too, right?
Totally, totally. And I still am, and this is something I'm working on, like even on the
Hmm.
very positive side of Instagram that I'm focused in, like it's
Yeah.
easy to get sucked into autopilot and like basically leave your body, and then you're just come to 5 minutes later and you have scrolled,
Yeah.
past 100 posts and you have no idea what you just saw, but your brain feels a little scrambled and you're like, why
Yeah.
can't I just like stay present? But it's a challenge, and it makes a difference when you like pull up your phone
Mm.
and pull up an app with intentionality and say, this is what I'm going
Yeah.
to do. This is what I hope
Yeah.
to get out of it. And then like be present with what you're seeing. If it makes you feel
Hmm.
bad, like adjust.
Reassess and adjust. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Now, you mentioned that there were two. I think we talked about one
Yeah.
thing that you've been doing within the past year to really help align your energy and step into more positivity. And that was looking at what information you're consuming. Was there a second that you
Mm.
had or have still on your mind?
Yeah. Yeah. The second thing is kind of examining my own inner thought life and
Mm.
processing emotions that were not fully processed. And I don't necessarily want to go into like the detail of like the events and the
Hmm.
emotions, but so I started doing therapy, and therapy is
Yeah.
such a powerful tool to process things that I think in today's day and age,
Yeah.
it's totally. acceptable and common for people to just not have gotten them out of their system. And when you literally like physically start to release those, you start to uncover this layer of existence beneath that. And it's a process and it's a journey. It's one I'm still on, but like just making the first step, like starting to do that and realizing, oh my gosh, like I've traveled all over the world, but I haven't gone inside. And that's where the journey really is.
Wow. Wow. And how powerful that is, as well as the world doesn't necessarily have that opportunity that it once had to physically travel
Yeah.
somewheres. And I mean, from a feng shui perspective and looking at our home space, if we're constantly wanting to leave our home and out and traveling and exploring elsewhere, it kind of leaves this opportunity to question, is there something that I'm avoiding in our
Yeah.
home? So in our space, in our inner,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking like inner home, like our inner
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And within the past year or so, it's presented this amazing opportunity then to go within
Yes.
and
Yes.
yeah,
And
make
it's
some
like,
shifts, assess some things.
yeah, it's funny because I don't know. I guess we all just because for the most part, a lot of people moved inside. It's like you start to realize like, well, why do I feel the need to be, and I actually just recorded a podcast on this, but why do I feel the need to be productive all the time? Like
Hmm.
where did that come from? And why
Right.
do I get a high off being productive? And it's like, am
Hmm.
I covering something up? Am I trying not to
Right.
like have the time and space to feel something that's below that? And I think for
Hmm.
me, the answer was like, yeah, like
Yeah.
there's a lot below that. And being productive
Hmm.
is just kind of a band-aid.
It's a beautiful distraction.
Yeah.
And I say that for myself because it's like I can fully relate and resonate with that as well and so when I'm kind of being more productive or even going back to being out of the house all the time, it's like the signal now for myself to then go within and kind of reconnect
Yeah.
and do my own kind of like assessment of where things are at and what's coming up. Um, Slowing down.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. Slowing down. And I think once you do that and you come within yourself and figure out like, well, what's going on in here, then you can go back
mhm,
out and appreciate the world with a much greater depth
yeah.
of like perception and um, relating to it, like relating to. And one thing I've loved to do recently is just go experience more art and stories of people.
Mm,
Of
yeah.
I've seen a couple plays plays that were shown
Hmm.
online and gone to a couple
Yeah.
like outdoor gardens with sculpture. Did that this weekend. Went to a
Wow.
sculpture garden, but
Yeah.
it I don't know, like when you start to connect to like what are the things that drive me and how do I relate those to the outside world, the experience becomes
Hmm.
totally different. And for me, it's
Yeah.
pulled me to art, but it could pull you anywhere. And I think it's
True.
cool when you figure that out.
Mm. Now, I know you mentioned exercise earlier on and that you weren't going to go into it, but I do have a little question around
Yeah.
it because it's something that for years I had kind of abandoned was
Mm-hmm.
this whole idea of connecting with my body, um, and working out is maybe too harsh of a comment, but moving body and exercising, gaining muscle, that sort of thing. It's not something I've ever really ventured into. Now, after having three children, and I'm in a place mentally, spiritually, emotionally, where I'm ready to kind of step into working on my body
Mm-hmm.
from an exercise standpoint and orientation. I'm starting to little by little add, like some weights and enter into this world of exercise.
Yeah,
I notice on your Instagram that you do kettlebells.
I do. Yeah, it's something that I found when I started working from home and stopped going to the gym, and
Hmm.
it was a practical thing at first, and then I found there's this whole online community of kettlebell fanatics, and
Yeah,
it's so interesting to me because the kettlebell is the only weight implement that I see associated with mysticism online. There's this connection between
interesting.
like mysticism and like ancient warrior mindset and the
Hmm.
kettlebell.
Makes
And
sense.
And yeah, and as I got into it, it's like there's this primal flow when you swing this heavy piece of iron around, and it stops being about like, is my forearm correct? Am I building muscle? And more about you're like tapping into
Yeah.
this energy flow, and you feel like you're in the,
Hmm.
in the wild, like basically an untamed warrior, which is I don't know, it's fun, is what it is.
That's
So
awesome. I'm so
yeah,
excited for kettlebells.
yeah, it moved from, because weights used to be like an aesthetic reshaping, like I was molding my body,
Right.
and like that was the point, and it became like, holy crap, like just swinging this thing around and moving is so fun.
Yeah. And when things are fun, it makes it so much easier to continue the practice, right?
100%, 100%, yeah.
Oh, well, I might ask you afterwards if about this fanatic group that you're mentioning,
Yeah.
because I used to practice also qigong, and I know
Mm,
Tai Chi follows very similar, like the fluid movements and really just going with the energy and tapping into that spirit really of the motion and of the movement. And of course, like, we're energetic beings, our
yes,
hands are super powerful, like, no doubt, those movements and bringing in that purposefulness and that meaningfulness and intentionality even in with the movements is just, to me, it's so beautiful. It looks like a dance.
exactly, exactly. And yeah, you mentioned like the spirit, like tapping into, yeah, you do feel a connection to something greater. And it
Yeah.
can be, I'm sure it's through a lot of things, like dancers.
Yeah.
I would imagine have that same connection. And even people on Peloton seem to like that. So the soundtrack's good,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah, that's right. Is music something, and this might be like a very rhetorical question, but is music something that's like really big in your life as well?
Yeah, yeah. So music was kind of my first passion, and
Okay, okay, yes.
I grew up playing or taking piano lessons and kind of being taught how to
Okay.
play the piano and playing classical pieces by like, the famous artists. And when I was in
Hmm.
eighth grade, I picked up the guitar and I just fell in love with it, mainly
Yeah.
because it was the first time that I had the space to like just make songs up on my own and
Hmm.
improvise and then play popular songs as well, which made me feel cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, music is such a, for me, it's like my spiritual form of expression, I guess. Like that's my inner artist as a
Mm,
musician through sound, and even just like playing the right music while I'm doing certain things, it totally
yeah.
changes the experience. So it's
Hmm.
something I'm just discovering more and more, like the deep relation of music to connection to like
Yeah.
the greater world around you every day.
Absolutely. Is there any one genre or band that you're listening to right now that's like just hitting the spot every time?
Ooh, gotta think. I so I really like EDM. I like electronic music.
Hmm.
I like,
Yeah, same.
you might call it like house music, but I like this artist Lane 8, who's just really,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I love the this mellow. I don't know like what frequency it's at, but it just puts me in such
Right.
a good state. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think those are the artists that I'm drawn to. I put it on and it pulls me into this like mellow but present state where I feel like
Hmm.
alert and peaceful.
Yeah. Same here. And actually, Lane 8, I'm freaking out because I've been listening to Lane 8's song "Is This Our Earth?" And
Mm.
I've been like having it on like repeat lately, and I just love it so much. And I feel like Earth Day is coming in 3 days, that this is like such a great, I don't know, I mean, the lyrics may not necessarily like translate to it, but the feeling and the energy behind it is so um upbeat. I like it. I don't know. There's something very powerful behind music and the vibrations there and the
Hmm.
frequency with tracks. Yeah.
Definitely.
And when it comes to like genre specific, I ask that because if you're anything like me, if someone were to ask that to me, I'd be like, I have no idea, because it really just has to depend on like, you know, the mood, the
Yeah.
scenery, the environment. There's so many different factors that come into play, but Lane 8 is one that's like fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I tend to really love music that doesn't have lyrics too.
That's interesting.
But not
Why do you think that
necessary
is?
sometimes. Yeah, just my mind goes so quickly, and I feel like the lyrics sometimes is like too much. Sometimes, like classical music, I'll go to, and when I was pregnant, I would listen to classical music all the time. It's just
Mhm.
so, oh, it's just easier to connect sometimes with the music when the lyrics aren't there.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
for sure. I think I'm the same way actually, and that's why I'm drawn to EDM is
Yeah.
because I can just
Yeah.
infuse my meaning and emotions on top of the
Right.
instruments.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, Now, is there any other positive habits at home that you found that has been just really beautiful or really helpful the past little bit?
So one habit I've started doing, and it was a tip I got from someone that I connected with through Instagram, who's a hypnotherapist and habits coach. And I was really struck when I asked her like the question of like, what habit should I do? And she told me this one, so I started doing it. And it's
Okay.
a long lead up, but are you ready? This one's
Yeah, I'm ready.
it's crazy. It's crazy. I make my bed
Yeah.
every day. That's it.
Yes. Yes.
Just make my bed at, like or make our bed since it's a shared bed with my wife and I. But yeah, it's such a it like it's such a small thing, but it like sets the tone for your day, and you feel
Completely.
accomplished when you put that blanket over and pull the pillows on top.
That's
You're like,
right.
look at me, like I got this. Like
I got
my bed
this. Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah. Look what I just did. I could do
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Absolutely. I'm curious to know, well, maybe she didn't mention the reason behind it, but I've done a little bit of research behind making the bed first thing in the morning a few years ago, and it's like one of and I think I caught on to it originally and initially because it was one of the habits that successful people do on a daily basis,
Mm,
which is really interesting. And then it's this, 5-minute video explaining the science behind it, and but simply starting your day off, with that mindset is incredibly powerful, and that ripples out throughout the day as well. Yeah,
totally, totally. Yeah, it's small things, I guess.
yeah. It's like a combination of the small things, eh? That really
Yeah,
just create beautiful days.
that's kind of like my whole thing is like just find the small habits, the ones you love doing and look forward to, and slowly trial and error, add them in, and you'll, over the course of months, years, like you'll be amazed at how much you and your life will change just by finding those
Yeah,
small things.
absolutely. I find too it's easily achievable as well when we start to break it down into small, meaningful steps. It's easy to then stay in the present moment as well. And anxiety, depression doesn't exist in the present moment. So moving day to day, being mindful, and you know, looking at the little things is achievable and something that is within our control. Absolutely. So I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing the
Yeah, of
great
course.
big tip.
Of course, get out your notebooks.
Yeah,
You might forget it.
absolutely. But even putting it into practice too, and then building up that muscle memory, and you know, um, I don't know, it's not something that I've seen in your content thus far, but it's about creating healthy habits. And, I've read and heard before, you do 21 days to really get it kind of locked in, and then 3 months to have it set up for life. I mean, I think there's like quite a bit of psychology in behind that. Um, but I also believe, personally, I believe that when we notice those tangible shifts and when we're aware of them and have that self-awareness, it's just easy because we naturally want to do things that feel good for us,
For
right?
sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
actually, I should do some content on that. I'm thinking about like
Mm.
here's blown on the wind here, but thinking about how I'd position that, like for me, I guess my perspective, the way I've seen it in my life is that it's a very intuitive, I think it's easy, like it's not hard, like you don't need to go to the
Right.
science, like just listen to your
Yeah.
intuition, try things
Yeah.
out. If you like them, you will know right
Yeah.
away. Like you'll know. And an example that I see that is like life-changing for people that is very well known is Peloton, the Peloton bike and those classes. I
Okay.
know
Yeah.
so many people that didn't like working out at home, they couldn't make themselves do it, and all of a sudden you give them a motivating instructor and a really good
Hmm.
soundtrack and that sense of community all within the
Yeah.
home, and like it's clicked and they enjoy it. And there's a million other things like that out there, I think, depending on the person that you can find, but it's just finding that thing that when you do it, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
like this is fun. Like being healthy can be fun. It's like, yeah, it can. And it's intuitive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Konrad, for being here. For those that are, my screen keeps dimming. I guess we're coming to the 30 minutes. Um, thank you so much for being here. For those that have joined from Just Married Feng Shui, please head on over to Konrad's page and give him a follow. Very uplifting, very encouraging, very positive and humorous content. Something that I've chosen to include in my life since stumbling upon your page, I think maybe 4 or 6 weeks ago. Um, Podcast, The Antenna Method. Please check that out as well. This is positive content to, again, incorporate into your life and really feel uplifted and supported. And so thank you so much, Konrad, for being here and sharing
Yeah,
your time.
of
Yeah,
course. Thank you. Thank you as well, Jess. It's been a pleasure.
absolutely. All right. Take care, Konrad.
All right. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.